Hey everybody, this is Perch. And a while ago, I did a video saying, why do the companies seem to have so much trouble getting female characters over? And a couple people got confused a little bit by the wording there. Um, to be clear, when I mean get them over, it's kind of an old wrestling term that the promoters would use to how do you get a character popular. And getting a character over meant you could have a villain character, be popular, or a hero character be popular. That really didn't matter. Just get them to the point that people would pay to watch them wrestle. That was the idea. So you get the character over. And it was common that they do this thing where, maybe a very popular wrestler, like let's say The Rock, when he was wrestling, he would basically work with a up-and-comer wrestler. And the idea was that they call this giving the rub. All these terms sound completely wrong, but you give the rub to a newer wrestler, the rub being, The Rock's popularity, and ultimately that would result in two popular stars instead of one, which is a good thing. But I did this video talking about how do you get female characters over in comics, because clearly there's a desire to do that from the publisher side. They want to have, strong female characters. They're doing that. What's funny is they say they want to do that because it's, the right thing to do just from a gender equality standpoint, whatever happens to be. The reality is they want the attention and the pat on the back for doing that. And, maybe they want the new customers, new readers, who they believe are only going to come in and start buying things if it features a female character. Now, any retailer will tell you that's not really the case, and it's a little demeaning to women, to be honest, to say, "Hey, we want girls to give us money, so we need to put a girl in the comic. If we put a girl in the comic, then that'll trick the girls into giving us money." Kind of, I don't know. That's not not the. I wouldn't call it the most progressive way of looking at business, but whatever. But I did that video, and what was interesting is every now and then I do a video and I get a lot of commentary from creators. And I can never really predict which one I'm going to get the most comments on, but that video got a lot of comments from writers and editors. And it kind of split down the middle. Half of them were doing the why, this is, people always doing this like helpful tip. So, hey, helpful tip. If you want your channel to be accepted by mainstream comic professionals, you really shouldn't do topics about why can't female characters be successful. To which I find that's just bizarre. Some bizarre logic right there. It's like, hey, let me just paraphrase what was being said there. Hey, if you want the current publishers and creators to talk more to you, then you shouldn't do videos suggesting how they could be more successful with their efforts of promoting women characters. They would prefer it if you would just keep talking about the same old male characters. And anyway, I don't know. It's sometimes I like, come on guys, if you replay what you're saying just in your head a little bit, you realize how bizarre it sounds. But that's one of them. But about half of them are like, hey, helpful tip, Perch, if you don't want to be labeled as one of those toxic channels, you really shouldn't talk about women in comics. It's like, but the purpose of the video was to suggest how we could have more women in comics and how they would sell better. Like I would like to see female characters be more successful. It's like, yeah, but that's complicated, and you're making us think too much. It's better if you don't mention it at all. Can you just talk about how much you liked King in Black or whatever event we're doing? Just do a video on that. I actually did get an email from an editor who's like, I would suggest to creators that they come on your show for interviews if you would spend some more time talking positively about the events that we're putting out. It's like, let me just replay that back to you. So you're suggesting that I give fake shill reviews to your comics, and if I do that enough, you'll send creators my way. Okay. By the way, that does explain some of these channels and how they get interviews with creators. Anyway, I put that aside. The other half of the group, the other half of the creators said, hey, appreciate your show. Appreciate you hitting this topic. It's very frustrating for me. I will suggest pitches for female characters. I almost said pitches for bitches. That doesn't sound right. I will suggest pitches for female characters. I'll suggest storyline ideas, and it gets shot down with the reasoning, the world's not ready for that yet. And I'll get told a lot like, well, the audience really won't go for it, so we need to play it more safe and don't really want to do this. I've heard from multiple creators this is the case. And so, where are all the good female superhero stories going? Apparently, going nowhere because the world's not ready for it yet, which is really bizarre when you see some of the things that are being put out, which I would say the world is also not ready for and will never be ready for it because some of these ideas suck. Like, hey, I think DC is about to do the DC Round Robin 2. That's a terrible idea. The first one was a very bad idea and was not a good plan. But let's do another one. Why not? Anyway, the world's not ready. No, seriously, the world is not ready. So you should just stop. But this topic, I think, I had lunch with my wife. She came and saw me, and we two of us went out to lunch. Somehow we got onto the topic of superhero comics, and her comment was, we had just watched The Kingsman, and it was a fun adventure movie. Wasn't too serious, pretty straightforward. But the female character was kind of the sidekick. She was the helping out in this adventure. She wasn't the star of this movie, but she was helping out. She had a very limited role, but my wife was saying you could roll her into a movie now on her own, where she goes on a little adventure like a James Bond type film. You could do that because they basically gave her the rub of being in the main movie with the main star. They gave her some cool things that she was able to accomplish, and it showcased how great of a that she could do a lot of things. She was a great character, and now you could easily promote it as a movie. But I was going, but in comics, it's like they want to skip those first steps. They want to skip the step of having the female character show up, be with a more popular, high-selling character. Do something really cool, generate a lot of interest, and then you do your spinoff. It's like they feel angry or embarrassed to do that first step. Like if they do that first step, it's like they're admitting that the character is not popular. But the reality is the character is not popular. And I'm looking into my wife's eyes, and I'm like, that's why I love you so much. That's why I married you. You're smart, smarter than me every day. But she's right. This is true of comics. They rarely showcase. So perfect thing for them to do. If you wanted to get, if you wanted to do a Storm solo comic, which you should do that. Why not spend a year? And you might go, an entire year? God, why? But a year goes by in comics very quickly. Why not spend a year where Wolverine, in his book, is going on some mission where he needs a heavy hitter. He needs somebody with a real strong power set who could fly, throw lightning, all that kind of stuff. Just somebody who's really strong. And Cyclops is like, I guess I'll go out with you. I'll do it with you. But Wolverine's like, no, I need somebody who can think like me, who can do, who can think outside the box, who can think like an outlaw. And I need Storm. And so Storm shows up in the title, and it's a 12-part, you could have it in 2 parts of 6, basically a full year's worth of adventures, where Storm is working with Wolverine, and she is certainly able to be a badass, saves his ass many times, is able to, we see kind of the underground side of her, when she was a leader of the Morlocks, that kind of more fierce side, not just the, half queen of Wakanda, but not really, but sometimes she's regal, but other times, but that kind of, street level hero, Storm, but with a power set that could, crack the earth open. Spend a year doing that. And then at the conclusion of that year, launch the Storm solo series, which would work beautifully. Now, unlike the character in The Kingsman, Storm obviously has been in comics for a long time, has a good following. People do like Storm. She's got an established history. But still, I would do it that way because from a pure sales standpoint, Marvel can't seem to get these books off the ground. So the way to do it is using classic wrestling logic. give them the rub of a popular character like a Wolverine, put them in a situation that really kind of showcases some new aspect, also showcases some vulnerability. Storm having to go undercover to some extent in this a street level Morlock type environment. But then when a really powerful villain shows up, Storm is able to shed that disguise and roast him because she's got the power to do it. And if you set it up that way, then when you roll into the solo series, you have a number of options. You can put her up against major villains because she's got the power set to deal with it, or you could put her up against underground stealth type things where she's using her street smarts to kind of take care of it. I mean, you've just got a lot of options. You've basically set something in play that allows you to have a lot of versatility with the character, but you've spent a year reminding everyone what a badass she is in the context of books that sells really well. That would be just smart booking. You could do the same thing with Captain Marvel. You could have Carol, hang around with Spider. I mean, what's the popular book you glom onto? Unfortunately, a lot of books are not as popular as they used to be. But you could have a character do the same thing with Spider-Man. You could basically set them up, give them some moments to shine, so that when they go off into their solo title, they're coming at it from a position of power. Unfortunately, what the publishers seem to want to do, and what they always kind of fall back on, is it almost feels like they're defiant in how normal markets work. So they will say, I don't think we should have to build up Storm. The world is ready for a strong, fierce, female person of color. And if they're not ready, screw them. They're a bunch of Nazis anyway. So the world, we're just going to do this. And that sounds good if you're fighting a bunch of trolls on Twitter, but that sounds bad if you're actually trying to make money in a business. That's just not how business thinks or works. Business works off popularity, and if you build it up right, you can very easily spin these things off, make a lot of money. But if you come into it like you're daring your audience not to participate, like you better buy this book. If you don't buy this book, then you're a sexist bigot. That's what you are. That doesn't work. You can't shame people into buying things. It certainly makes you look like a super tough big man on Twitter, but it doesn't do anything for the store. And the solution to this, like I said, is super easy. It is extremely simple to just take one of your popular books, funnel the character through there for a while, get them built up, and off it goes. Look at Captain Marvel. They decided to kind of push Captain Marvel in the solo title, and they really had her kind of in and out of the Avengers for a while. They put her in charge of Alpha Flight with that whole space. I mean, that was just a very confusing mess of like, who's the anchor character? And from Marvel's perspective, the anchor character was Carol. But the problem with that is Carol hadn't been built up yet as an anchor character. Nobody thought about her that way. The sales weren't there. But Marvel being Marvel's like, nope, we're telling you. We've decided she is a big character. We've decided she is popular. Therefore, we don't need to build her up. We don't need to explain ourselves to you. We told you she's popular, the end. And if we're keeping with the wrestling analogy, wrestling has certainly done that in the past as well. Vince McMahon has come out and said, Giant Gonzalez here, he is, he's a big guy. I'm very impressed with the great Khali. He's really tall. Do you realize how tall he is? He is super tall. Because he's super tall, you're going to love this guy. The end. You don't like him? That doesn't compute. I can't even understand. How could you not like him? I told you to like him. Whenever the WWE or any wrestling promotion approaches business that way, they fail, and they fail hard, because that's just not how buyers, that's not how consumers think or operate. That they need to buy in. If you don't give them the chance to buy in, they will not buy in. And like in this case, they didn't. So, I go back to the premise of the original video. I think that female characters, there's many cool female characters within Marvel and DC, many. And I think that customers are excited and would be certainly willing to buy titles that feature female characters. They would be all into it. But you do have to package and build it. And by the way, everything I just said about female characters is true for men as well. If you're going to introduce a new character, yes, even if they're a white male character, you're still going to have to build them up. You can't just roll out a white male character and say, all right, I know you racists always like white men. Well, here you go. We're giving you something. Here you have it. It's going to sell as poorly as everything else unless you build up the character, unless you promote it. We saw this with the DC New Age of Heroes. They put out several white male characters, and they didn't sell. It's because the company didn't get behind it. They didn't build it up, and it went nowhere. It doesn't matter the gender, the race, any of that stuff. It's how well are you at promoting a character and actually building success. And I think rooted at the bottom of all this is this attitude from the publisher of, we'll tell you what to like. We'll tell you, and then you will accept. I just don't think that ever works. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always, and thanks for listening.